The Nature of Money by Geoffrey Ingham. This is a book summary. Money, it's everywhere. In our wallets, our bank accounts, and our minds. But what if I told you that everything you think you know about money is wrong? That this seemingly simple tool is actually one of humanity's most complex and misunderstood inventions. Most of us think of money as cold, hard, cash or digital numbers in a bank account. But what if I told you it's actually more like a living, breathing organism, shaped by history, politics, and power? Well, today, we're diving deep into Geoffrey Ingham's The Nature of Money to uncover the mysteries behind what money really is, where it comes from, and how it secretly shapes our world. So grab your favorite snack and let's talk money. Alright, so first things first, what is money? Your average econ textbook will tell you it's a medium of exchange, a store of value, a unit of account, yada yada. But Ingham argues that this definition is about as useful as explaining Wi-Fi as invisible internet magic. Sure, it's technically true, but it doesn't tell us how it works. Understanding money is like trying to explain what makes a joke funny. You've got to dig deeper than the surface. It's not enough to say that money helps us buy stuff or pay off debt. The real question is, why do we trust it? Why do we accept pieces of paper, digital numbers, or even cryptocurrencies as payment for our hard work? It turns out, money's power isn't in its physical form but in the invisible network of trust and power behind it. As Ingham puts it, money is a social technology, right up there with language and writing, something that societies use to hold themselves together. At its core, Ingham says that money is a social relationship. That's right. It's not a thing. It's an agreement, a system of IOUs that only has value because we believe it does. Think of it like a group chat with your friends. It only works because you all agree to use it, even if you occasionally mute that one person who won't stop sending cat memes. Without that shared agreement, money would just be paper or digital code without any power at all. And this idea isn't just modern theory, it goes way back. Ingham traces the origins of money to ancient Mesopotamia, where temples acted like the first banks, keeping ledgers of who owed what to whom. They didn't use shiny coins, they used clay tablets to record debts. Imagine trying to buy a latte with a hunk of clay today. Awkward, right? But the point is, money started as a way of keeping track of promises, not as a shiny object to trade for goods. This is what Ingham calls the credit theory of money. Money didn't start with barter and coins, it started with promises and trust. And here's where things get interesting. If money is just a social relationship, then it's also a tool of power. It's not just about buying stuff, it's about who gets to make those promises, who gets to create money, and who has to borrow it. This brings us to one of Ingham's most controversial points. The real source of money's power is the state. That's right, the government. From ancient kings stamping their faces on coins, to modern central banks controlling interest rates, money has always been tied to political power. Without the state saying, "This is money, and you have to pay your taxes with it," those coins and banknotes would be just fancy collectibles. This is why the idea of a neutral, apolitical money is a myth. In reality, money is deeply political. It's woven into the fabric of society, from how we pay our taxes to how we fund wars. When banks create money by issuing loans, they're not just helping people buy houses, they're deciding who gets access to opportunities and who doesn't. And that brings us to the dark side of money, how it can be used to control, to manipulate, and to deepen inequalities. So if you've ever wondered why the world's richest 1% have as much wealth as the rest of us combined, Ingham's theory might just have the answer. Money isn't just an economic tool. It's a weapon in the struggle for power and control. And as long as we keep seeing money as a neutral, objective thing, we keep misunderstanding what's really going on. So, if your mind's already spinning, don't worry, we've got a lot more to uncover about how money actually works. Ingham's ideas challenge everything we've been taught about money and open up a whole new way of seeing the world. To really get money, we've got to go way back Ancient Mesopotamia. Forget barter systems with chickens and goats. Those were basically history's blooper reel. The first real money wasn't shiny coins or pieces of paper. It was something much more interesting. Debt. That's right. Thousands of years ago, temples and palaces were like the original banks, and the priests were the OG bankers. They kept ledgers recording who owed what to whom. These ledgers weren't just for loans between farmers and merchants, they also recorded taxes owed to the king or temple. And if you didn't pay up, well, let's just say their collection methods weren't exactly friendly. This early system was all about managing promises, who promised to pay, when, and with what. Ingham calls this the credit theory of money, and it flips everything we thought we knew about money on its head. According to Ingham, money didn't start as gold or silver, it started as promises. And who made these promises credible? The state. From ancient empires to modern governments, the authority to create and enforce money has always been tied to power. The king's face on a coin wasn't just for decoration, it was a way of saying, "This is real money, because I say so, and if you don't use it, I might just send my army to have a little chat with you." Ingham argues that money is, at its core, a tool of power, a way for the state to assert control and maintain order. The very first coins in Lydia, around 600 BC, were stamped with symbols of the king's authority, not because they needed to be, but because it was a way to guarantee their acceptance. When you paid your taxes with those coins, you weren't just paying off a debt, you were submitting to the authority that issued them. Ingham's theory turns the classic story of money's origins upside down. It wasn't about efficient trade or making life easier for merchants. It was about control. Money, in this view, is a political creation first and an economic tool second. And if that doesn't make you look at the cash in your pocket a little differently, I don't know what will. Fast forward 3,000 years, and the system hasn't changed much. It's just evolved. Today, most money isn't even physical. Over 90% of money exists as digital entries on bank databases. That's right. Most of the money you think you have isn't sitting in a vault somewhere. It's just numbers on a screen. When you take out a loan, the bank isn't handing you pre-existing cash. It's creating new money by typing numbers into a computer. No printing press, no stacks of bills, just a few keystrokes, and voila, new money is born. Seriously. And this isn't some conspiracy theory. Ingham explains that modern money is fundamentally credit money. It's created through loans. Every time a bank issues a loan, it's effectively making new money appear out of thin air. But there's a catch. You still owe that money back, with interest. This means that our entire money supply is essentially debt that needs to be paid back to banks with interest. That's like borrowing a ladder just to climb out of a hole, only to find out the ladder gets taller every time you take a step up. This brings us to one of Ingham's most mind-bending points: the nature of modern capitalist money. Capitalist money isn't just an innocent bystander, it's a tool of power. Banks, by deciding who gets loans and at what interest rates, actively shape our economy and even our social fabric. They are like the gatekeepers of opportunity. Want to start a business? Buy a house? Get an education? Better hope the bank likes your credit score. And it doesn't stop there. When banks decide to lend to certain industries, like real estate or tech, they are not just making money. They are deciding what kind of economy we live in. By creating money in the form of loans, they influence everything from housing prices to job markets. It's like they have the cheat codes to the entire economic game. But power comes with a dark side. Geoffrey Ingham highlights how the very thing that makes money powerful, its ability to be created as debt, is also what makes it dangerously unstable. Imagine building a Jenga tower with invisible pieces. As long as everyone believes they're there, the tower stands. But the moment people start doubting, when loans aren't repaid, when trust collapses, the whole thing comes crashing down. History is full of examples of money systems going haywire. Take the infamous hyperinflation in 1920s Germany. The Weimar government, drowning in debt after World War I, did what any desperate gambler would do. It doubled down, printing money like there was no tomorrow. Prices soared so fast that by the time you finished your beer, it cost twice as much as when you ordered it. Children played with stacks of worthless banknotes, making kites or building toy houses. For many Germans, those years weren't just an economic crisis, they were a nightmare that left scars deep enough to help fuel the rise of the Nazi Party. Ingham argues that this wasn't just bad economic management. It was a symptom of a deeper flaw in how we create money. When money is born as debt, it's always a balancing act. If too much debt builds up without being paid off, the system starts wobbling like that Jenga tower at 2 a.m. One wrong move, and it's game over. Fast forward to 2008, and we saw the same story play out on a global scale. Banks handed out mortgages like Halloween candy, stacking up layers of debt until the system couldn't handle the weight. When the subprime mortgage market collapsed, it was like pulling that one critical block. Suddenly, the whole tower came down. Modern money is a paradox. Its power comes from debt, but so does its fragility. It's like a superhero with a dark secret, capable of great things but one misstep away from disaster. The stability of our entire financial system depends on trust that debts will be repaid, that banks won't go too far, and that governments can step in when things get rough. But when that trust cracks, the consequences can be catastrophic. And then there's the big question. Are cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin the future of money? Ingham's answer is, probably not. At least not in their current form. You see, Bitcoin enthusiasts love to talk about decentralization, freedom from banks, and escaping the grasp of governments. And sure, that all sounds great, but Ingham's theory cuts right through the hype. The real power of money doesn't just come from being a medium of exchange or a store of value. Its true power comes from something a lot less glamorous: the state. Throughout history, the most successful forms of money have been those backed by states with the power to enforce them. From ancient Mesopotamian temples to modern central banks, money's credibility has always depended on one thing: the ability to make people pay taxes in it, by force if necessary. That's why the dollar reigns supreme, not because it's the prettiest or the most efficient, but because behind every dollar is the power of the US government, with its laws, its courts, and yes, its military. Unless Bitcoin gets its own army and tax office, it's not overthrowing the dollar anytime soon. As long as states hold the power to tax and to control their monetary systems, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies will remain more like digital gold, useful for speculation, maybe even for saving, but not ready to become the world's everyday money. The irony? For all the talk of revolution, Bitcoin might end up reinforcing the very system it set out to disrupt. Ingham also points out another crucial flaw. Money, at its heart, is a social relationship. It's not just about trust in the technology, it's about trust in a system of rules and authority. Cryptocurrencies might be great at cutting out banks, but they struggle to replace the one thing that really matters: legitimacy. And that legitimacy comes from a combination of law, authority, and yes, force. In the end, Bitcoin's challenge isn't just technological, it's political. So what's the takeaway? Ingham's theory forces us to rethink what money really is. It's not a neutral tool or just a medium of exchange, it's a social and political construct backed by power and authority. And as long as that's true, the future of money might look a lot less like Bitcoin and a lot more like what we've already got. Money is less about what's in your wallet and more about who controls the system that creates it. It's not about gold bars in a vault or even the balance on your banking app. It's about power, authority, and the trust that binds us all to this giant, invisible web of IOUs. You see, understanding money as a social relationship reveals something pretty unsettling. The real power isn't in the hands of the people using money, but in those who create it and control the rules of the game. And spoiler alert, it's not us. Banks, central banks, and states, they're the gatekeepers deciding who gets access to opportunity and who doesn't. It's kind of like a high-stakes game of Monopoly, where some players start with hotels on boardwalk, and others don't even get to roll the dice. When central banks set interest rates, they are not just trying to keep inflation under control, they are deciding how expensive it will be for you to buy a house, get an education, or start a business. When governments bail out banks or print money to fund wars, they are not just managing the economy, they are making decisions about who wins and who loses. Ingham calls this the despotic power of money, the ability to shape society in ways that go way beyond economics. Remember, money isn't just a tool we use, it's a language of power that shapes our world in ways we're only just starting to understand. And here's the real kicker. If money is a language of power, then learning to speak that language might be one of the most revolutionary things you can do. Understanding how money is created, who controls it, and what that means for your everyday life isn't just financial literacy, it's a kind of power literacy. It's the first step to challenging a system that has most of us playing by rules we didn't write. So, if you enjoyed unraveling the mysteries of money with me, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more deep dives into the forces shaping our world. Because money might not grow on trees, but knowledge just might, especially if we start planting the right seeds. Until next time, keep asking questions, and maybe keep a little cash under your mattress, just in case.